Okay, so 3, 4, and what is the third side going to have to be? 5. A squared plus b squared, which was 25, but don't forget you have to square root it, right? Okay, so now here is what you did in grade 10. Do you remember something called SOHCAHTOA? Sounds familiar. Okay, so it goes like this. Sine theta, sine of the angle, equals, so the SO, what does it represent? Opposite over hypotenuse. So from this angle, what's opposite? 4. What's hypotenuse? 5. Cosine theta. A divided by H. So from this angle, the adjacent is 3, hypotenuse 5. Yes, this is all coming back to your brain from grade 10. The ones who had me, you guys did really awesome on this unit. So 10 is going to be opposite divided by adjacent. So 4 divided by 3. Okay, what you've now done is you've figured out these values. These are called trig values. So remember our components. We always talked about a trig function, the angle, and that this is what we call a trig value. If you look through all of these trig values, did you notice that they're all positive? Why are they all positive? They're all positive because they're in the Astica A. Okay, so this is grade 10. Moving forward, I mean, you always have that tool. But in grade 11, we start to talk about the formulas to get those. So you would be provided these formulas. I have them on your formula sheet. You'll have them on a test. You'll have them on an exam. So sine theta equals the y divided by r. So what's the y coordinate? 4 divided by the r. So the r stands for the radius, so as in if I was a circle, what's the radius? From the center to the outside, that would be a radius. Okay, so that's what that's talking about, that r. Okay, it's the same thing. So cos theta says to take the x value. So what's the length of the x side? 3 divided by the radius. So 3 divided by 5. Okay, you can see I'm getting the exact same answers here. So tan theta is the y value divided by the x value. So the y 4 divided by the x 3. Okay, and these formulas are just SOHCAHTOA. That's all it is. Okay, so let's put this into a different quadrant. We have the coordinate -5, 3. Okay, I always connect angles to the x-axis. So we're going to be dealing with reference angles here. So that's the reference. I'm going to think about this being a right triangle. On this side, I'm going to put -3 or -5, and this side I'm going to put 3. Okay, so we're going to get the third side. We got to figure out the hypotenuse again. So a squared plus b squared. Do you remember me doing this on our last section? I said don't put the negatives in your math, put the negatives in your location. So I'm not using -5 in my math because it's Pythagorean theorem. I'm just trying to do the distances. So this distance squared plus this distance squared, 25 plus 9 is 34. That's a decimal value, right? Because it's not a perfect. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it. Okay, so if it's not a perfect square, you're going to leave it like that. Okay, so here we go. Sine theta equals, and then you could either do O divided by H, or you can use Y divided by R. So it depends which one you're thinking about. They're the same thing. You should get 3 over root 34. Okay, cosine has a trig value of, okay, you can either say the adjacent divided by hypotenuse, or you can say the x value divided by the radius. And the tan trig value OA or YX should be, okay, I'm going to tell you this, I never write numbers with negatives on the bottom. I just say, hey, this is just -3/5. Okay, because it's not really math appropriate to write the negative on the bottom. Okay, let's talk about Astica for a second. We put this drawing in the quadrant 2. So what should happen in quadrant 2? Sine S should be positive. Look at that, it was. What should cos be? Negative. What should tan be? Negative. Okay, a little bit trickier here. We were told the sine value. So this is the trig ratio for sine. According to Astica, what are your options for being sine negative? You could be 3 or 4, right? Now this next part says that cosine has to be positive. So where is cosine positive? 1 and 4. So what's my conclusion about where this angle is? Which one overlapped both? They both have a quadrant 4. Okay, so sine is negative, but cosine has to be positive. Okay, sine was given to me. So one of these sides of the triangle is 4, and one of them is a 5. One of them is a 4, and one of them is a 5. How do I know? So I'm either doing OH, or I'm doing YR. Can you figure out which side is a 4 length and which side is a 5 length? So the Y, the vertical is 4, and the R is the diagonal, that's 5. Okay, how do I get the third side on this triangle? How am I going to get this side? It's Pythagorean, but what do you do differently with the Pythagorean? Subtract. I have to do 5 squared subtract 4 squared this time. I will get to what you're thinking later. I know what you're thinking. So that's 9. Does that square root? Yes. Okay, so that's the math. Okay, what am I missing? Go ahead. There's a negative. We were given a negative. So let's talk about location. First of all, this 3 is an x value. What kind of x value do you go when you go right? Positive. This 4 is a y value. What kind of 4 is it when you move down? Negative. The radius, no matter what, is positive. No matter what. Okay? You can't have a negative radius of a circle. Okay, so that's why we have the negative 4/5. So we always think about that location stuff. Okay, so finish this out. They want you to say, what's the fraction of the cos? What's the cos fraction? And what's the tan fraction? So again, you're either doing Ka or XR on the formula sheet. Okay, last one. Okay, let's analyze where we're going to be. So here's what I know. Cos has to be negative. Cos has to be negative. Those are some options for cos negative. Sine is negative. So sine is negative. Which one do I have to be in? Cos is negative, sine is negative. Okay, so I figured out my quadrant from the question. Okay, one of these sides is a 4 and one of them is a 7. So where do they go? Cos is Ka or for the X and the R. So this X, this R. Does it make sense that this is -4? Because it's an X. Where are you heading? You're heading to the left. Radius can't be negative, is that what you said? Yeah. Okay, Pythagorean. I'm going to do a backwards Pythagorean. So I'm going to do 7 squared subtract 4 squared. And I'm getting that to be a 33. And then that doesn't square root, right? It doesn't square root nicely. So I'm going to leave it. What can you tell me about that side, though? It's negative. Because our y value is down. It's down low. Left and down. That's negative. Okay, finishing it out. Sine of the angle is -√33/7. Opposite hypotenuse, or YR. And the tan of this angle TOA, or YX. I will not leave it like that, though. Why do I not want to leave it like that? What's something more I can do? What happens when two negatives divide? You get positive. Okay, here's some more connections. Make sure you are understanding how everything's also working. We're in the Astica quadrant T. So what about my answers? This tan ratio should be positive. Everything else should be negative. Okay? Just to make sure you're understanding graphing, does everybody know in this quadrant your coordinates are positive, positive? This is just basic graphs, right? What's this quadrant? Left and up. What's this quadrant? Left and down. And this quadrant is always going to be right and down. Okay, that's just your basics. Draw that into your brain as well from past.